Is it me or is cloud storage getting expensive as hell? I've been using Dropbox for well over a decade now, but it's costing me nigh on £20 a month just for 3 terabytes of data, which is a pathetic amount of space. I absolutely have no chance of storing the petabytes of videos I've downloaded from Paul Hibbert's secret OnlyFans.
Ooh, the Zigbee.
But in all seriousness, to put this storage into perspective, the source footage from just one episode of STU'S Reviews regularly hits around 200 gigabytes of data, meaning I could fit just a total of 15 episodes into Dropbox before it sets itself on fire. One way of dealing with this is a storage system hooked directly up to the Mac, a hard drive or multiple drives. But the big problem with this is that none of that data is backed up and none of the information stored on it is accessible from any other device, and files can't be shared to other people like my editor, for example. And it's not secure in the sense that someone broke into my house to rob my Mac, they'd rob the hard drives alongside it. So I needed a better solution, and the natural solution is a NAS. Now, for those who don't know what that is, it stands for Network Attached Storage, and to oversimplify what that means, it means a hard drive plugged directly into your router or home network rather than directly into a computer. The problem is, over the years, I've tried loads of different NAS drives and loads of different NAS systems, but I've always found them overly complicated. They never seem to work properly, and they often end up plagued with issues and error messages that I just have absolutely no idea or any hope in the world to resolve. This, however, is the UGREEN NAS Sync DXP 4800 Plus, an entirely immemorable name, but irrespective of the naming system, UGREEN have made the first NAS system that I've used that on the surface is extremely user-friendly for idiots like me, whilst also offering extremely powerful features for more advanced users, such as even being able to use it as a Home Assistant server, which will tickle the pickle of a lot of you smart home lovers watching this right now. But we'll come back to that later, because before I could try any of the features, I had to set this thing up first. Now, the case itself has 4 removable caddies that hold either traditional hard drives or SSDs if you're a madman. And each of these are lockable into the case with a little key, which I think is a nice touch to stop little milk goblins accidentally on purpose yanking one out with their tiny wandering hands. Underneath, it's also got a slot for 2 NVMe drives as well, which can help increase the overall read and write of the system, but altogether it has a total maximum capacity, when using the right drives, of 136 terabytes, which is just a smidgen more than the 3 terabytes that Dropbox gives you for £20 a month. Along with the hard drives, you can also choose to up the RAM as well to a total of 64 gigabytes if you need, which does help with certain functions such as setting it up to run virtual machines, but it comes with 8 gigabytes as standard, which is enough for more than general use. But when it's all put together, you've got to admit that this is a particularly nice looking and robustly built device. Now, there's a few bits of the design that I'm actually quite appreciative of, such as the rear has a filter that magnetizes to the exterior where the fan is. This, over time, collects the dust, but it means that you can just pull it off, have a clean, and pop it back on in a matter of seconds. No messing around with screws to take it apart, or using air dusters to blow billowing clouds of dead skin and atrocities into my lungs. Ooh. But it's a simple design choice that's made a real positive impact on the overall experience, even though it might not seem like it at first. But once the drives are in and you're all done and dusted, literally and figuratively, it's time to plug it in. Now, on the front of the NAS, you've got a USB-A and a USB-C slot, along with an SD card slot for direct connection of drives to the NAS. And then on the rear, it's got HDMI ports for running it directly connected to a monitor or display, USB ports and dual Ethernet ports on the rear, one of which supports up to 10 gigabit Ethernet and the other supports 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. Now, that might not mean a lot to many people, but let me tell you that this stat is so important for the overall functioning of this. Most home networking that you have will run at gigabit speed, but if you've optimized your home network, it's capable of pushing it so much further. I specifically upgraded a bunch of my home networking to support 2.5 gigabit to see the difference having this made, and it blew me away. I would have done 10, but for the price of 10 gigabit hardware, like 10 gigabit switches, it wasn't worth it at this moment where most of my devices have only got gigabit connection. Obviously, there's tons of other things that can impact network speed along with the connectivity of the device that you're using, but it's all about optimization of your home network to get the best speed of transferring files to and from that you possibly can. So if you are able to upgrade your network to suit the capability of this, it makes a big difference indeed. Is it needed? No, not really. You can as well manage without upgrading your standard home networking, but to get the most out of this, you definitely want to investigate changing just a couple of things to maximize your speed, especially if you're running your computers hardwired. Now, the next thing you'll want to do once you've turned it on is choose how to use the drives that you've included in the case. You can either set them to work all individually, or you can set them up in what's called a RAID drive. Those that don't know what that is a system where you configure multiple drives to act together rather than individually. So for example, you could set them all to act as one giant pool of storage. So instead of seeing 4 2TB drives individually, you'd see one massive 8TB drive connected to your network. Other modes of settings or modes of RAID can give you redundancy within the pool so that they all act together, but if one or more drives fail, you can simply pull one out and put the new one in and it will restore all of that data. You won't have lost any information. It's a good way of making sure that your information is backed up in the event of a hard drive failure, whilst maximising the storage space that having 4 drives gives you. The setup process that UGREEN have makes it super easy to understand the different configurations, and I'm very, very thankful that it literally holds your hand as you set it up. It's one of the easiest setups for a NAS that I've come across, and even after you've set it up, it continues to hold your hand, providing you with a handy sort of to-do checklist to get everything up and running as you want it. UGREEN have made it so easy that you don't even need some complicated web client or interface to set it up. You can just download the app onto your phone and it will do the same thing. To my knowledge, that is pretty rare and an unusual thing to be able to do. One of the biggest challenges you might have at the start is getting all of your files onto the device from whatever janky storage solution that you were previously using. For me, getting stuff off my old NAS was actually straightforward, although it was a pretty poor NAS. Just connect directly to the old NAS through the UGREEN interface and copy the files across, which was limited obviously by the speed of the old NAS drive, but we eventually got there after several days. But then I had to transfer everything from my Dropbox, which is the whole point of this episode, is to save me money and replace my cloud storage with something that I can have locally. And this was less straightforward and even slower. And it's all because I'm idiotic enough to use Dropbox instead of something like Google Drive. Because UGREEN have an app called Cloud Drives, which lets you connect directly to OneDrive or Google Drive directly within the interface. And there's support for a few more as well, which incidentally was added whilst I was writing this episode. So that goes to show that UGREEN are constantly improving the capabilities of the whole system. But most irritatingly, Dropbox isn't currently, at the time of this episode, on that list of cloud storage apps. So UGREEN, if you're watching this, please sort out Dropbox support ASAP. I mean, not that it'll help mine because I've already done it the painstaking way of using a computer as an intermediary between the two, downloading them onto the computer and then shipping them to this, which took about 3 years to complete. But only after doing that did I realise there was actually an easier way. In the UGREEN NAS App Store, you can download Firefox web browser, which meant I could have just signed into my Dropbox on there and downloaded it directly to the NAS instead of using my computer. Never mind, because all the files I've now got stored on the NAS, I can view them in several ways, either through the app or pretty much on any device through the web browser or even direct connection, which is a preference for me because it treats the filing system like it would have on any native browsing on the computer. But the speed of viewing, because I'm using that quicker 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, is super fast. Now, as well as viewing and editing and downloading, I can also share links for people to download directly from the drive as well, which means that I can finally get rid of Dropbox because that was one of the few features or few reasons that I was sticking with it in the first place. But that said, I would love it if you could bake that directly into macOS somehow, which is what I'm using it with. And by baked in, what I mean is to be able to connect to it and browse through the Finder window and right-click on a file and share a link, just like I would do with Dropbox. There may be a way to do that, and if there is, I don't know it. Maybe you know it. So don't be shy, do let me know in the comments if there's a way of doing that. But if you don't want to share links, you can also set up shared folders and collaborative spaces for multiple people to be able to access. So for me, being able to let an editor access all of the footage or files of a particular project saves me a load of time having to upload to Dropbox before I can share those files. I can now just import the footage directly to the drive or even work directly from this, and then my editor can jump on in and continue working or downloading directly to his device. So it's going to be a game changer for me from a file sharing and data storage perspective, but also from an ease of use perspective. I mean, it's been so easy. It's encouraged me to look at what more I could do and play around with a lot more. And lots of it is simplified with the apps available to download. There's quite a lot of functionality you can easily bring to the device through the App Store, one of which is that Home Assistant service. So it means you can finally bin your Raspberry Pi that you've got sellotaped to the underside of a cupboard somewhere, and you can have it built into this NAS. Now, there are apps like Theatre as well, where you can create a media server, and the Photos app as well that allows you to store all of your photos in one place. And that's searchable via AI as well, just like your phone is. So it's a great place to back up your photos instead of using something like iCloud or Google Photos. Now, I will say that the range of apps that are available in the native app store is a little bit limited if all you want to do is have an easy user interface experience. However, I believe that you can manually install packages and other apps through external places with the manual install for more advanced users. But that's probably a bit more advanced than what I need. I mean, I know I'm only just scraping the surface of what's possible with this device, and I'm sure that there's plenty of you watching now who know way more about this sort of technology than I do, and you'll no doubt be rushing to the comments to tell me that I should have bought Fisher-Price's My First NAS playset, given how much functionality I'll actually end up using. And that's fine, you're probably right. But the reason I love this device is because of my simple usage and the paired simplicity of the user experience. It's got to be the easiest NAS system that I've ever tried. So much so that it's encouraged me to learn a little bit more and push it a little bit further than I've done in the past. And I'm really thankful for that. It gives as much functionality as you want it to. And this sentiment, I think, is shared by a lot of people who've moved over to the UGREEN NAS system, which is available across all of their current NAS drives. And there's quite a few, actually, which makes it sort of hard to know where to start or which one to get. Most of the differences across their entire range are down to how many bays it has on the front, because you can get 2, 4, 6, and even 8 bay models, along with a few options of things like I/O speed. This one, the DXP 4800 Plus, is, in my opinion, the best value of the range, offering a higher spec of connectivity with ample drive space, whilst also remaining relatively budget friendly. The cost of this is RRP £599, although when I was writing this episode, it was on sale for a very, very reasonable price. So check that link out in the description. Or if you're watching on TV, scan that QR code to find out what its current price is. But at the price of £599, if we use that to compare to cloud-based services, it'll have paid for itself in just a couple of years by saving all of that money for paying the cloud storage, whilst giving me 40 times the amount of storage that I get with cloud services. Of course, you still need to buy the drives, but they can be as cheap or as expensive as you want depending on the size and type. But either way, this will eventually pay for itself and start saving me money eventually. And by that notion, and with the knowledge that it can do everything that I've been using my cloud storage for, I would say that without a shred of a doubt, it can absolutely replace my cloud-based storage subscriptions, whilst offering me way more functionality too. And you can't say fairer than that. But hold on, there will be some eagle-eye viewers who are about to say, well, Stu, Now, you don't have Dropbox, someone could just burgle your house and steal this. You've got no protection. Or STU, all of those cheap Chinese gadgets you keep getting will eventually burn your house down and you'll lose all of the data. Well, hopefully neither of those will come to pass. But if it did, I have a plan. I've now set up the very old, very unreliable, very confusing NAS drive that I've moved from as a backup for the UGREEN NAS using the UGREEN interface. That drive is now situated in an outbuilding in a very secure spot. So worst case scenario, if any of the above happens, then I've got all of that data sat in a safe, sound, external location. So all I'd need to do is buy a new one of these and I could sync it all back across. And it was that easy to do because UGREEN make it so. Just another reason why this has to be the best system out there that I've tested, certainly for wanting ease of use without a doubt. But what do you guys think? Is this storage solution one that you'd go for? Am I making a meal out of something that's actually really straightforward? And should I receive 10 lashes for my incompetence when it comes to NAS drives? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And as a reminder, let me know any tips, tricks, or other uses that I've not thought of. You never know, you might surprise me. But other than that, guys, if today's episode helped you decide if the UGREEN NAS drive is for you, then make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe button, and I'll see you all back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon.